Well, hello, good afternoon to you, or good morning, wherever you are listening from. Welcome to the Rude Boy Sound. I am DJ Paul for another edition of the Spurs, the Sound Off. And I don't know where I'm going with this discussion. I absolutely don't know where I'm going, but I want to take this conversation to move away a little bit. I'm taking it to somewhere, moving away just a little bit from the Ange. Every topic is about Ange. And so I was thinking about two things the other day, and one of them I absolutely don't know, and I'm not going to go back, but to see if I did mention it on any of my videos. I don't think I've done any videos since I actually went through and found, you know, that little bit of information. Usually, when I find something, it's usually from responding to maybe another content creator, post, and it dawned on me that when looking at Ange and looking at his system, I said I wasn't going to talk about Ange, but I have to mention him, but I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm going to talk about more so an incident or an observation. And so the system that is employed, if you look at my background right there, which I'm going to let's stay there until either there's some semblance of order in the defensive line. I know that I saw that Van de Ven and Romero is coming back, and we all know that the high line is actually Van de Ven. We saw that his speed, his power, his ability to cover a lot of ground is the only one who can actually play substantially that high line. And so if he's back and Romero is back, I'm hoping that you don't throw them out there again with the way he did against Chelsea. We need to see them put 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there in their legs before we chuck them back into what has become a deteriorating situation game by game. And so while it's good to have them back, I see where the footages are coming out in training. And one of the things that I wanted to touch on, and you can agree with me or disagree with me, or we can discuss it in the chat, is the system is dependent on speed. And if I start at the back, I'm not going to say Romero has burning speed, but he has enough pace. There's a difference between pace and speed. He has that coverage in to get up to pace to thwart attacks and get to his man. He is very vulnerable, however, in the open field because he's so aggressive in trying to get to his man. And so I would say Romero has pace, but not actually the kind of speed that you would want to relate to a Van de Ven or a Udogi or Brennan Johnson and Timo Werner. And all those names at the time of recording, they're all injured or coming back from injury, as in the case of Romero and Van de Ven. And so it lends me to ask a question: if the system is based on pace, is it inconceivable to guess that with Gray and Dragushin and Poro that we just don't have the pace because all the injured are out? Or is it that the pace and the demand to play at that pace does take a toll on the players, and that is why you have this high injury rate? Food for thought. Think about that. And sticking with players on the defense, you look through the market, you look through the window, and obviously knowing the same thing that we knew last window, same January window, where Dragushin was brought in. And even though he would explicitly never get much usage, and even at the start of this season, he had to wait his turn until we have two men down before he was beginning to get incorporated in the team, even though it is not really fair in the sense that he got his chance to play in the Europa. But if you ask any professional, they do want to play in their domestic league. And therefore, what you're saying to Dragushin, the message that was being sent without rotating him, is that he pretty much was not up to snuff or up to speed to play in the Premier League. And that was a bad message to want to send to your defender, because there was absolutely no rotation to accommodate him in there. Does that stresses the leg of the players who are injured? I'm not a doctor. I don't know. I just watch the game. And so, not to get down in a rabbit hole with that, I'm going to say that's for a point of discussion. And then we could take a look at this as well. We haven't signed any player in the January window, especially a defender. We're going to focus on the defenders. And this came to mind. I look at Luka Vujicic, if I pronounce his name right. I'm going to mess it up, so let me call him Luka. And one I can definitely pronounce is Phillips, Ashley Phillips. And so when you begin to look at the prospect of, say, Romero leaving, we're still going to need cover for him. What I do see, however, and this might be foresight planning, but it's not helping us in the immediate, that instead of going out there and getting two center backs, right, I expect Davis to leave at the end of the year, is that they have two youngsters who are out on loan that are going to come in, and therefore you'd have a restored back four pending what will happen with Romero. There's still rumors that Romero might go, but what do I know? I don't know anything to speak to that, so I'm going to speak to the present, that Romero is here and he's under contract. Whether I leave for whoever wants to leave for, we can deal with that story at another time. But for the purpose of this video and for the argument that I'm trying to put out there, and the reason why we went so long without signing a defender, is that the board, Levy, and you have to include Ange as well, is that they have an eye on the two defenders who are out there. Also, when you look at it, I see the calling back Dane Scarlett, and I'm not sure if Dane Scarlett needs to get up to speed, but we have injuries, and therefore I expect Dane Scarlett, even though Longshore was here, I would want to think that Dane Scarlett as a striker would be incorporated in the team to give Richarlison, who should leave next year. So let me just cover that before anyone is going to take the subject of what I'm saying and twist it around. I expect Richarlison to leave, but let's just concentrate on what's out there and what we expect to come into service the team next year. I don't like it. Let me say that first and foremost. I don't like it because now it becomes an excuse that we have new players coming in and we have young players coming in, and therefore we're not going to put the effort out there to go sign a replacement for Son. We have the young kid that came in and I don't see him. And if we're struggling, and this is what bothers me a lot, it really and truly bothers me. I know that we have a lot of young players, but that's what we signed up for. And if you sign up to bring young players in, then they should be required to fulfill their obligation when called upon. But they cannot fulfill that obligation if they're not being called upon by the manager. And so I'm really and truly perplexed as to exactly what the heck is going on. Are you going to tell me that the kid came here in the middle of December, right? Trained, he just came out of his league, and you're going to tell me that he's not match fit? Or is it that he's not registered? January 1 has been gone a long time ago and he has not played a game. Is he injured? I'm just talking off the top of my head because we get a lot of conversation. Oh, we have injuries to Brennan Johnson, but we have a young winger, right? And we did not or is not using him. We still go back to Mikey Moore. And we need a substitution for Son, but we have to play Son to the end because we can't bring Lancashire or Dane Scarlett in, who is here on the roster. So why did you recall him? Are you going to send him back out? So I don't understand. I don't understand a thing that's going on. And I get it. I get it. I get the injuries. I absolutely get the injuries. Right? And even though I kind of segue back into the injuries, let me finish up the thought that I had before I lose my the trend. The trend is that I think for all the players that are out there, including the ones who are in Spain, I don't rate Cardosa, by the way. I've watched enough of him and I watch him extensively. I don't think he's ready. All he is a big body. I don't see anything in his game that will tell me that this kid can handle the Premier League. I'm an American, and I would love to see an American again in the Spurs team. But that American is no good. I can tell you because I watched him. I did the scouting report on him. He is absolutely rubbish, to be honest with you. And I can't see us going in to get him for because of the caliber to bring him in. Well, unless we're looking to sign cheap, which I don't put past Daniel Levy. So that's for that. So looking for that monster number 6, Johnny Cardoza is not that monster number 6. I'm sorry, but he's not. Period. No conversation to be had. I watch enough of him. But getting back to the not signing or non-signing of any defender, I think the board is looking at, and that's, like I said, it's going to include Ange as well. Because anything that they're doing, you have to approve it. And so I think they're looking at Luca and Phillips as the defenders that they're going to bring in. But we're still going to need a left back. So we can move Spence over to the right side. So even then, we couldn't find a left back because he's not playing regular. That means if you can't do all your shopping in the summer because you're going to get ripped off. Either way, you're going to get ripped off. But don't tell me that you couldn't find a left back out there that you could move the contract forward. Buy it out. Because if he's good enough for you in the summer, then why not bring the contract forward? You're going to lose regular anyway. So you're going to have one less guy to sign in the summer. I digress. I'm not talking about transfer, but that would make sense if you were planning ahead, just the way you signed Bergvall and said Bergvall absolutely is going to be in the first 11. Not the first 11, but the first team when he comes into Spurs. So why can't we see that across the board? So those were my thoughts. Those are absolutely my thoughts. And then when you look at it and you say, hey, Velez is out there. Are we going to bring back Velez behind Solanke with Lancashire and with Dane Scarlett? Now we're beginning to crowd the bus because we're going to have 4 people at the striker's position. Is that going to work? But bear in mind that Richarlison has to go. And more so, he was never going to be a striker. And you want to use him there, and I support that with the injuries, then you use him as a striker. But then again, you're going to ask a question. If Richarlison is vulnerable and susceptible to so many injuries, what happened to Lancashire? What happened to Dane Scarlett? Dane Scarlett is back. Don't tell me that these professionals, They're young, but they're professionals who have been training elsewhere. Get up every day, go to training. Fitness should never be a problem. Match fitness might be the problem, but they were playing elsewhere. The kid was only off for like a month and a half. And everybody goes off for a month and a half. So how much time does he need? The South Korean kid, how much time does he need to catch up to the team? And we have injuries. So I'm like really confused. Really confused as to the players that are available, and we not finding 15 minutes here for them, 20 minutes here for them. We keep going back to the same set of players. I don't understand it. I don't get it. And that is why I'm saying overall, injuries are being used as a scapegoat. Now, the scapegoat is that the manager is not being backed in the January window. And I subscribe to you that if you back him in the January window, it's going to take so long for him to incorporate those players. Might as well you go back to the players that you had before. And that's just my honest to goodness opinion on the whole thing. So let me know what you think. I'm going to jump off of here. I don't want to go beyond 20 minutes. That's enough of me beating up your ears for another edition of the Spurs Sound Off. I'm DJ Paul on the Rude Boy Sound. Peace. I'm out of here. Come on, you Spurs.